Friends, today, 6th October 2021, Wednesday, Dilsai with Ratnam, coming with financial news. How are you, everyone? I think everyone is here and healthy, good and happy. And the Moody's give us a good mood for India, and they say they raise our status from stable, from negative to stable. They give the status stable from negative. So earlier it was on the negative side, and now today they raise us to stable thanks to Moody's and the performance we did, and today we are on the stable side. And a strange group of companies, they did some mess, and the main banks NABARD, SIDBI and IFCA, they are taking a hit from the people who borrow from them. And a meaty deal, we have a very meaty news, and it has acquired a unicorn status. And now unicorn status, they gained $52 million cash. It takes wishes to Unicorn Club. So they raised to the status to a Unicorn Club, a good clout, meaty deal for them because they gained 52 million cash. Takes wishes to Unicorn Hub. So the first news, Moody's says stable from negative. So let us go into this and have a capture of these headlines. And now, Moody's. What the Moody's are telling? Rating affirmed. India's outlook stable. Moody's. So take this. India's outlook stable. Moody's. So I read from this. Agency cites receding downside risk to the financial system, appreciating that banks and NBFCs now pose a lesser downside risk to the real economy thanks to the steps taken by the government and the banking regulator to repair their impaired balance sheets. Moody's Investors Service on Tuesday affirmed India's sovereign rating at Baa3, the lowest in the investment grade, while upgrading the country's outlook to stable from negative. Moody's had in June 2020 trimmed India's rating by notch to the lowest investment grade, which is just a notch above junk status, and retained the negative outlook, citing weakness fiscal metrics in the wake of a COVID-19 outbreak, stating that an economic recovery was underway with the activity picking up and broadening across the sectors. The agency has now said the country's real GDP would rebound to a growth of 9.3% in the current fiscal. So the main points are like this. Moody's latest forecast: real GDP to grow by 9.3% in financial year 2022, followed by 7.9% in financial year 23. Nominal GDP growth of 10 to 11% in the next few years to aid fiscal consolidation. India's debt burden to stabilize at around 91% of GDP for the medium term. So we will take a close look of this sketch, and and here it is like this. The same thing is written elsewhere. The business line you see. Now we see the Mint. Moody upgrades outlook on India. Moody upgrades outlook on India. So, Moody upgrades outlook on India. A mixed bag. And what they tell is, Moody's Investors Service revised India's sovereign credit rating but kept its credit score unchanged at Baa3, the lowest investment grade. Moody's rating action has been fickle of late, with 4 rating actions in 5 years. So, rating Baa3, 5th October 2021, rating affirmation, outlook changed to stable. So, 16th October 2003 on watch possible upgrade BA1. 9th April 2015 BAA3. 16th November 2017 upgrade outlook change to stable BAA2. 7th November 2019 rating affirmation outlook changed to negative. 1st June 2020 downgrade outlook unchanged negative BAA3. Now 5th October 2021 BAA3 rating affirmation changed to stable. So have a good look on this and have a thorough idea. Moody has best latest report. Moody gives investment reports rating. So that's the elaborate news. You can have a look from the business line. It states Moody upgrades India's rating outlook to stable from negative. This is the news from business line. Moody upgrades India's rating outlook to stable from negative. So, the news is like this. Real GDP growth to average around 6% over the medium term, reflecting a rebound in activity to levels at potential as conditions normalize. The many reforms. Downside risks is receding. So the downside risks are receding and upward movement is possible. From the many reforms, the firm noted the reforms announced throughout the pandemic, which include measures aimed at increasing the flexibility of labor laws, raising agricultural sector efficiency, expanding investment in infrastructure, incentivizing manufacturing sector investment and strengthening the financial sector. If implemented effectively, these policy actions would be credit positive and could lead to a higher potential growth than expected, in turn, a return to trend nominal GDP growth of 10 to 11% over the next few years will allow for a gradual fiscal consolidation and stabilization of government's debt burden, albeit at high and above pre-pandemic levels, the firm said. That's the firm used. The Moody's have given us a lift, and we should maintain that lest we fall down. And the second news is Stray Group hits NABARD, SIDBI and IFCI to take a hit from NABARD, SIDBI, IFCI to take a hit from stray situation with a total of rupees 2000 crore exposure. 2000 crore exposure. Lenders, investors may be able to recover about a third of estimated 31,000 crore liabilities. Debtor SIDBI, NABARD and IFCA form about 6.43% of outstanding debt. SRAE total outstanding borrowings as March 31st financial year 21, 30,783 crore. SIDBI and NABARD credit likely given for refinancing SRAE's MSME clients. Lenders likely to reach out to RBI administration soon. Lenders likely to reach out to RBI administrator. That is the condition. So, there are so many reports on the SIDBI and the laxity on part of the government, on the part of banks, and it is very well established and very well told in these papers. And we read one expert excerpt from them. It's a very great explanation from Mint. SRAE's fall and the sorry saga shadow of shadow lenders. SRAE's fall and the sorry saga of shadow lenders. It's a very big news. A very big news. SRAE's fall and the sorry saga of shadow lenders. So I will read it in full length. Please hold on to me. The financier could not survive its failure to come up with a credible debt recast plan. Let's hope we are reaching an end to our non-bank lending crisis and this will be kept in check. The saga of our non-banking finance sector is yet to fully unfold. After the 2018 implosion of IL&FS and 2019 collapse of DHFL, on Monday, the Reserve Bank of India added the Kolkata-based SRAE Group to the country's list of failed non-bank lenders. The regulators superseded the boards of two non-banking financial companies, SRAE Infrastructure Finance Limited and SRAE Equipment Finance Limited, citing governance concerns and defaults. To manage them, RBI appointed an administrator under whose charge it would like their insolvency to be resolved through India's bankruptcy code. Some are there saying it is too early to go to IBC, but RBI has taken the route of IBC, for which it has sought approval from the National Company Law Tribunal. SRAE declared itself shocked by RBI's move, claiming that banks had control of their cash flows anyway and had recovered 33,000 crore in dues from an escrow account. The group said it had asked creditors for payment relief and proposed to repay them fully by means of a debt raising. The NCLT, Shrey argued, had ordered that no coercive steps be taken by either creditors or regulators. True, the tribunal had, but that was last December. This year, the appellate tribunal upheld an RBI appeal against that order and set it aside. This should have been hint enough of stern action to follow. Shrey had been cash-strapped for a prolonged period. Its lenders had been faltering on their obligations. Rating agencies had downgraded their paper, and RBI had flagged concerns of possible related party loans. The regulator's intervention was probably driven by an assessment of Shrey's inability to get the required buy-in for its debt recast proposal. It talks with investors to pump in capital and had not resulted in anything that could spell a rescue. And so a preemptive call must have had to be taken. As seen in earlier cases, a lender's collapse could have domino impact on the finances of others, which in turn can destabilize credit markets and cause shudders around. Shrey reportedly owes about 30,000 crore to banks alone, and then there are bondholders too. Their best hope at this juncture would be a swift resolution under our bankruptcy law. DHFL, which faced similar action, was eventually acquired by the Pyramid Group. The same mechanism could yield a broadly acceptable outcome in this case too. At the core of our NBFC crisis has been a big mismatch in borrowing and lending tenures, with short-term funds wantonly deployed for longer-term loans, a problem compounded by mispriced asset-specific risk. As the effects of an economic slowdown after 2017-18 began to wind their way through our financial system, several loans were bound to go bad and expose vulnerabilities that had stayed hidden. The coming apart of infra lender IL and FS set off counterparty havoc, and Shrey was among many other operators that suffered the resultant liquidity shock in this sector. The group was still wobbly and COVID struck, and project disruptions added to its woes. As its bankruptcy became increasingly inevitable, there was perhaps no better way to minimize knock-on distress than to push for its sale with some of its debt burden relieved. The hope now is that we are finally in the final stages of this sorry saga of shadow banks, but this would be a forlorn hope if no safety lessons are learned from it for future operations. Now that RBI has NBFCs under watch to a greater extent than before, assets and liabilities should not be allowed to get so badly misaligned again, nor, for that matter, should favors be extended in the guise of loans. Favors should not be extended in the guise of loans, and NBFCs should be very clearly watched, and the saga of DHLF and DHG, implosion of IL and FS, DHFL, they have not even made any special impact on our banks. Still we are continuing to do the same mistakes and falling in downhill. So stress is a great matter, and many papers have reported about stress, and they have taken a very serious look about the way things are going bad. Stress is a very important matter, and Shrey Bonders Married as Group Company goes Shrey Bondholders worried as group companies head to NCLT. Shrey bondholders worried as group companies head to NCLT. So, just winding up and going to NCLT for resolvement. RBI seized Shrey Infra Finance and Shrey Equipment Finance, citing governance issues on Monday. So RBI has seized it. And bondholders received 1.25 to 43.8% of their investments in the DHFL insolvency resolution, depending on whether they are secured or unsecured and how they voted on the resolution plan. So, in all possibility, state is also going to scan under IBC procedure, insolvency and bankruptcy resolution. Diligence is overdue. Shrey case further proof of banks' laxity, RBI lacking alertness too. So the columns run, and only the Shrey issue. How did you give? Everything looked normal when the loan was being taken, and everything went RE when the loans are being cleared. The stress in the country's finance activities far from over. After the collapse of IL and FS, Yes Bank, Dewan Housing Finance Limited, and a couple of others, two NBFCs are now headed to the insolvency courts. RBI superseded the boards of Shrey Infra Finance and Shrey Equipment Finance using the powers it had under Section 45 IE 1 of the RBI Act. 3 years after IL and FS caved in, there seemed to be intermediaries out there so fragile they could fall anytime. Given the checkered history of NBFCs, hundreds of them have folded up. It is disappointing, even unpardonable. They are not better regulated in the instance. The banks seem to have lent the two firms a little too much, an exposure of some 28,000 crore, clearly more than wanted. So banks have given more than needed. I don't know what is the rules they followed. The default and governance. Given how RBI observed its actions had been prompted by concerns of default and governance, the banks have been caught napping in a reflection of its capability. A rating agency rated the debt facilities, including NCDs, etc., D or default grade in March. This is the greatness with which we do our thing. We need to ensure borrowers respect the loan contract. The promoters can be dislodged and their companies sold. However, the resolution of stressed assets has come at a cost, seen in the steep haircuts that the banks have taken. We need to make sure the funds loaned to the companies are being properly utilized, not wasted or siphoned out. So the loans are taken and siphoned out to relatives or whatever. Siphoned out. Far too many businesses are closing down. The Shrey firms may soon find new owners as DHFL did but that's the little consolation. So new owners come and take up those dead-ridden, failed companies. So that is the second news. And third news, we have this unicorn status and a meaty meal, meaty deal. Oh, wonderful meaty deal. We have very good meal or deal, meaty deal, meaty deal. Meaty deal, unicorn status. So the status has been taken to a higher level. The status is nice, and hope that has gained 52 meaty deal. Riches turns unicorn with the latest funding. $52 million. Vivek Gupta and Abhay Kanjura, co-founders Riches, said even though the funding for D2C sector has grown significantly, FMCG is still not considered the most attractive category. We expect that the Riches unicorn status will change that. So continue on page 2. This is a very important news. So Riches turns unicorn with the latest funding. The fresh meats and seafood sector is still largely underserved and unorganized, which holds a vast opportunity of $40 billion they added. We will continue to build the category through investments in the technology for supply chain excellence, produce innovation, talent, and vendor partner upgrades. In just 5 years, Riches said it had witnessed a 300% growth and has served over 3 million packs of meat products to consumers across Bengaluru, Hyderabad, NCR, Chandigarh, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Jaipur, Coimbatore, Kochi, Puducherry, Vizag, Vijayawada, and Kolkata. Riches serves over 1 million orders every month with over 90% repeat consumption across markets. Riches currently has over 3,500 employees. So it is having 3,500 employees and serving million orders every month and meat packets, and in 5 years it will be nothing more, and it has got a very good uniform. So they say it's a meaty meal, just to get it here, it is a meaty meal. This is meaty meal. Riches turns unicorn with a IIFL funding. Riches turns unicorn. This is the thing. Riches turns unicorn. Yashas turns unicorn with IIFL funding. In the process, Wishes operated by Delightful Government Private Limited became the first direct-to-consumer startup to achieve unicorn valuation. Direct-to-consumers startup to achieve unicorn valuation. The fresh meats and seafood sector is still largely underserved and unorganized. Turning to page 6. Wishes raises funds, turns unicorn. So where the funds have come from? The funds have come from IIFL. The company claims to have delivered its products to more than 2 million customers across 14 cities. Earlier this year, Wishes allocated ESOPs to over 1,000 employees, including its blue-collar workforce. This was followed by a buyback worth rupees 30 crore in August. Today, Wishes is among the fastest growing D2C brands and is one of the few consumer businesses in India with very strong revenue retention metrics. Strong revenue retention metrics. IIFL AMC has funded it. However, given the restrictions on focus on health post-COVID, Wishes, which controls the entire farm to fork supply chain, is going slow on plans to make an overseas foray. We will look at an IPOs, but only in another 2 to 3 years time, he added. So everybody starting with a startup ends up in an IPO, and sometimes he flourishes with an IPO, and sometimes they go back. And IPOs, they give a good round, and sometimes they just to put them back. So what do you think how the businesses raise funds, become unicorns, then they step into IPO, and then after IPO, and businesses, the problems so crop in. Please see this. Hinduja said, that an initial public offering is on the cards, but it won't happen very soon. We will look at an IPO, but only in another 2 to 3 years time. So we can expect another IPO from Wishes. Thanks to Wishes, it is showing some good signs of market upgradation. And again, coming to next news, we have some farm news, and people are hitting, and the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh makes a sitting dharna in the airport when he is not allowed to enter Lucknow. Why? So they want to curb the risings and falls. So great news. Then we have the history of Lakhimpur Kheri. History of Lakhimpur Kheri, the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. Cannot sit calm. He comes to Lucknow to highlight and extend solidarity to the farmers. It's a great news. We'll get you soon. So, opposition farmers demand action. See, Baghel sitting in the airport and is detained at the airport. Political tension on Lakhimpur Kheri escalated on Tuesday with opposition leaders such as Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Akhilesh Yadav still being detained by the Uttar Pradesh police and next of kin of the three deceased farmers, refusing to cremate their bodies until action was taken against Ashutosh Mishra, son of Union Minister of State for Home Ajay Mishra, is arrested and another post-mortem is done in Bahrain. So, the Congress and other people, opposition people are coming together and taking a strong stand. Chhattisgarh CM Bhupesh Baghel stages a sit-in protest after he was denied permission to leave the Lucknow airport. So he sits on the floor. See clearly, he sits on the floor. He is the CM Chhattisgarh. Great news. Such is the importance farmers carry, and such is the reaction that comes when a new son of Union Minister comes to picture and does something which is questionable. He is a son of a Union Minister, but he too has to be within the framework of rules. It's a great thing. And we have a great picture of our Shaktikant Das reigning on RBI with the greatest length of story fully told on him. India needs a well-calibrated exit from its monetary chakravyuha views. This is Shaktikanta Das, RBI Governor. It gives a great photo, Shaktikanta Das. The pace and priority order by which RBI withdraws its extraordinary COVID stimulus will influence economic outcomes. The recent news from the central banks across the world points to a simple story. Moves towards withdrawing their extraordinary monetary stimulus have begun. The US Federal Reserve has indicated that it will begin to reduce the pace of its balance sheet expansion soon. The European Central Bank has also said it will begin to slow down its asset buying in the last quarter of this year. Some smaller central banks in the countries such as Brazil, Iceland, Mexico, Chile, Russia, and Hungary have been increasing interest rates. They have been joined by Colombia, Jamaica, Peru, Czech Republic, Paraguay, and Kazakhstan. Norway recently became the first Western economy to actually increase interest rates rather than soak up excess liquidity. So the COVID situation is dying out. So this is the great news from Shakti Kant Das. And we have some news about crypto. I have been telling that crypto is a very deciding thing for the government. Crypto can rise up, shoot up, and pose a new question to everyone every time. So this is the news. India fueling one of its world's fastest growing cryptocurrency regions. Cryptocurrency. The report flagged increased crypto adoption in Pakistan and Vietnam. The report flagged and said increased crypto adoption in Pakistan and Vietnam. The nation's celebrities are now being attracted to the sector according to local reports. For instance, Bollywood star Amitabh Bachchan has created non-fungible tokens, NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Bollywood star Amitabh Bachchan has created non-fungible tokens, digital collectibles, and become so-called brand ambassador for exchange CoinDCX. This is the crypto exchange CoinDCX, India's first cryptocurrency unicorn. So underline this. First unicorn, we have another unicorn here. This is the crypto exchange, and please read. It is Amitabh Bachchan, our favorite star, who has become the ambassador for that cryptocurrency exchange. So please note this. Its name is CoinDex or CoinDCX, India's first cryptocurrency union. So the pace of expansion in the region is strongest after the Middle East and much of Europe, with India's market growing 641% and Pakistan's 711% over 12 months. The Chainalysis report looked at trends over the year to June using a metric that estimates the total cryptocurrency received by a country. So even Pakistan is heading ahead. Demand for digital coins in India is helping to make a region spanning Central and South Asia and Oceania one of the fastest growing cryptocurrency markets globally according to Chainalysis. So growing cryptocurrency markets globally, fastest growing cryptocurrency markets globally. So we cannot and you cannot and we cannot as a country, we cannot ignore the importance of cryptocurrency, and the nation leaders are called upon to make laws and rules and bring cryptocurrency, and they have said El Salvador, it has no currency of itself, so it has no problem. It can do many things, but we have another fiat currency, and fiat currencies should be governed, and the government also should take interest to govern the cryptocurrency also. Cryptocurrency is going to very fast take them by surprise. There is yet another news on that. I will just give it for you. It's yet another very important news, because Crypto you cannot ignore, and we need to do all possible things to capture crypto. Because after the planning of China, that is China banning crypto, we are now bound to do it, because all are looking at India to be a market for crypto. This news will close, but let me find this crypto. Not that. Great news. It is not seen getting published so early. Yeah, got it. Brand equity. This crypto news we cannot ignore. I have to catch it somewhere and get through it. See this. Crypto's free run. So small news, but very important. Very, very important. Just let me read. Very small item. Apropos the edit, the transparency on beneficial ownership. No. Crypto. Crypto's free run. ELA social media. This refers to let's get less cryptic, shall we? By Sugata Ghosh, October 4th. Is cryptocurrency an asset? Is crypto an asset? Question yourselves. Is it a commodity? Is it a security? It may be none of these, admittedly. Maybe it is not a asset, not a commodity, not a currency. So if it is not all this, then what it is? Admittedly, crypto is dotting the global financial system and has financial stability and policy implications. However, rulemaking and oversight are absent. Just like the social platforms, authorities are looking askance at this strange and frightening animal, doubting their own capability to make rules for an entity that is no citizen of theirs. Not much importance need be assigned to El Salvador. Isn't it? The final conclusion they come very happily. Not much importance need be assigned to El Salvador adopting a Bitcoin as legal tender, as the country does not have currency of its own. So we must be happy with it, because it has no problem, but we have problems. See this kindly, and then this will be closed. This is the condition. So shall we sit back? We'll be thinking that El Salvador has no currency of its own, and it has no problem in running with cryptocurrencies as a legal tender. But can we make it a legal tender in our country? Can we make use of it and keep ourselves ahead to catch the unexplored wealths of currency? Because once internet was a mystery. Now internet is a reality. Today crypto is a mystery, ungoverned body. But soon it is going to be a reality, and we cannot do away with it. We have to regulate, make things sooner and sooner, and see we are getting adapted to cryptocurrency and pave a way and show the whole globe, all the global nations, to cover and govern and make it a legal tender and extract all possible business help from the cryptocurrencies, since we are going to a 5 trillion market and we need support from every side. So this is Disay Vikratnam signing off for today, and this is the news. Keep reading, keep encouraging, and encourage and share and subscribe my channel, and encourage people as we bring the news fresh each day. Thank you, signing off.